I think the heart of communication through the written word is storytelling. When you can share a story, you 10x your chances of connecting with people. And storytelling can come through all mediums. It can come through podcasting. It can come through speaking. It can come through networking in person and telling a story. I think the power of the written word is that's often an accessible entry point to someone you don't know.
Welcome back to the Art of Connecting podcast. This is your host here, Hayden Fike, back with an international episode. So this episode is going to be really interesting. So Alice reached out to me via email, actually, and she'd listened to one of my podcasts and wanted to be a guest on it. And so we're so excited to have Alice. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more and get to interview you today on this podcast. And Alice is joining us all the way from Dubai. That's good to me, really excited because it's 8 a.m. here and it's 4 o'clock there for her. And so she was like, it's crazy that it was still in my workday. And I was like, it's crazy that I was like not even awake this morning, like 45 minutes ago. So thank you so much for coming on, Alice. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Hayden. And thanks for waking up at the crack of dawn to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I wanted to go ahead and roll into it. Can you just introduce yourself and introduce your business and what you do for fun and for work?
Yeah. So my name is Alice and I'm the founder of Hustling Writers, which is a PR firm. And we're on a mission to make publicity accessible for underrepresented entrepreneurs. I started out as a freelance journalist, so I learned how to pitch myself to write for publications like the Huffington Post or Vice. And that's a pretty tough skill. And I got a bunch of rejections in the beginning. And I really had to hone the craft and learn how to deal with rejections. And a big part of that was finding a community and learning that skill. And also at the same time, working with copywriters opened up the space where I realized that this is something that a lot of people need help with. And I started getting referred out to help people pitch themselves. And that's the origin story of how I started Hustling Writers.
That's awesome. And so when you're pitching someone else, what does that kind of look like? So they contact you and they say, hey, I have this idea. I want to go. What does that exactly look like? Because I'm curious.
Yeah. Usually it's through referral, and most of my clients run a business of some sort of their own, and often they're either trying to promote their book or get booked on more keynote because they're a speaker. And so that's the objective, is really to get more visibility. They have ideas, but they know that they need to be in front of other audiences beyond their own audience. And then we jump on a story development call and I distill their ideas into what I think are some of the most attractive, worthy, actionable ideas that will attract an audience. And I'd say to sort of back a step, first we want to know who their audience is to know what stories would be attractive to that audience. But yeah, I'd say it all starts with them already having done a lot of work. They usually have products, whether that's a book or services they're selling. And then the next step is using those ideas and turning them into interesting pitches that can go out and get them the exposure that they desire.
That's awesome. So when you first started this, how hard was it to break into the industry of writing and publication?
So the industry of writing, which would be journalism, that industry was tougher. I started writing for a lot of small magazines and writing for small magazines and getting paid fairly low, like prices per article was not that difficult, but getting accepted into bigger magazines like the Huffington Post or Vice or Refinery 29 was tough, and I faced a lot of rejection. So I'd say that part was quite tough, but actually pivoting towards publicity and getting clients there, that I fell into. I just got referred, like with the work I was already doing in copywriting, which I did to supplement my income. I started getting referrals and then it snowballed from there. So it wasn't even an intentional decision. It just happened to me and I rolled with it.
That's amazing. A lot of podcasts that I listen to, like business, entrepreneurship, education podcasts, talk about how important copywriting is for people. And I don't know a lot about copywriting. I do one text blast a week with my event that I run and I don't have any kind of like email or anything like that. Can you, just for some of the newbies, can you talk about what copywriting is and why it's really important?
Copywriting is a really big term, and I know I can speak to probably a very limited area of it, but I am a writer. I've always loved writing. I've always connected with the written word. So what I can say, I think the heart of communication through the written word is storytelling. When you can share a story, you 10x your chances of connecting with people. And storytelling can come through all mediums. It can come through podcasting. It can come through speaking. It can come through networking in person and telling a story. I think the power of the written word is that's often an accessible entry point to someone you don't know. So if you take our conversation here today, I didn't have a good control of the written word, we wouldn't be talking here today. So we wouldn't have made it to that next step, which is face-to-face interaction, which I think is always the gold mine. You really want to be connecting with people face-to-face. I like even better if it's in person. But the written word is often the best way to access those people. And so that's why like social media marketing is so big, email marketing is so big, because that is a way you can reach people before you made it to that in-person meeting. And I think that's where my interest in pitching lies, is that it's all about getting us connected to people that are really, frankly, hard to be connected to. Like getting my clients to get someone like Adam Grant to blurb their book, or getting featured in a really big magazine. It's not easy. And if you really master the written word, you open up doors that otherwise would probably be closed.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. And what I work in, I mainly do like human to human interaction. That's like
Yeah.
that's my jam. Go to usually 1 to 2 networking events a day, and I'm like running around all the
Wow.
time, going to lunches and different meetings. But I feel like each one of us have our own specialty. Of yours is the written word and writing. Mine is, it's a 1 sentence email with my calendar link of like, all right, just get on the calendar because I don't want to sit here and type it out. I just want to go and talk it out. So that's,
I think in person is the best. Like once you're connecting in person, I think it'd be so many other forms of communication. I think writing can be a way to get to that level.
I never really thought of it that way. It's like how important that getting to the in person is something to think about. So that's awesome. And as far as your realm of what you do, you focus in really closely on one thing of, I want to get people that have written books or sell service into magazines, or do you do a wide range of different things?
I started out mostly working with coaches just because that's an area I was already in. And I'd been doing copywriting for coaches, and then the referrals happened that way. So women working in personal development is the niche that I am most familiar with. And I know a lot about their industry, the stories that resonate with their clients, the types of places they should be showing up on. But yeah, in terms of what my ideal client are doing or what they're up to, when it comes to podcasting, because I want my clients to have a strategy so that they can really leverage the benefits of showing up on podcasts. And so one of the things that I want to know is that they have some sort of scalable product that they're selling. And that scalable product could look like a book, because then you have a lot of incentive to be showing up on many podcasts because you want to get that book in the hands of as many people as possible. It could also be a digital product, whether that's like some resources, a mini coaching program, a big coaching program. It's great to also have some entry-level product, because I don't think with a podcast, you're going to invest $10,000 into a giant coaching program. But if you do have like a $47 like mini course for someone to go on to, someone might purchase that off a podcast because they found the podcast interview really interesting. So yeah, I'd say I want people to maximize their efforts, and sometimes not having a strategy or a reason to show up on podcasts can make it feel a little bit pointless. Like you might get burnt out showing up on podcasts all the time, and you may not feel like there's a connection between this and your overall goals in life and business.
Yeah. What's really interesting is a lot of my mentors focus their time on going on a podcast. So there's a guy that I have, he's going to come and be on my podcast and also speak at my in-person meeting that I have here. But he doesn't have to work. He has millions and millions of dollars of real estate. He has his own plane. He just flies where he wants when he wants. But he is going on, he literally put out a Facebook post the other day. I'll be on 100 podcasts and speak at 50 in-person events this year. I'm like,
Wow.
and of course,
What is his goal? Like, he doesn't have to work. What is he hoping to achieve with being in front of so many audiences?
he's an entrepreneur. So he's always selling, always growing, always progressing. Because although he could just sit down and not do anything, like once you make it to where you want to be, it's like, all right, cool. There's another mountain
What's
over
the
there.
next goal?
Yeah, exactly. So that's his push and his grind. And he hired out a CEO and everything for his companies. He's like stepping
Mhm.
away from running his real estate business and stepping into like the social media influencer, like personal development realm of things like that. And I'm excited to talk with him and ask him like what his plan is and like, why are you doing this,
Yeah.
Bill?
Also, if he wants to be like a keynote speaker, which from the sounds of it, he's done a lot and he probably has a lot of value to share, podcasting is a great way of when building that authority and to just being in front of people and be like, I want to hire that guy to come talk at my company or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And the compounding effect is really cool when you start getting onto a lot of podcasts and it just goes to connecting with people. If you listen to someone on one podcast and then you hear them on another podcast that you listen to as well, it's like, whoa, this person's legit. They got on
Yeah.
two of my favorite podcasts. So I need to follow along with them. That's happened to me so many times where I listen to my normal podcast and I hear someone as a guest on it. And I'm like, whoa, this guy is awesome. Or this lady is killing it. And I'll go and find their social media and follow them from there. And then they got me hooked.
Yeah, it's like the power of knowing someone that you trust. Like, you see, even if you don't listen to the episode, like you can see someone on someone you know's podcast, and you're like immediately like ranking that person as being more authoritative than they were before. Like,
Absolutely.
I've had that where someone I know is now on a podcast of someone I respect, and I'm like, oh, okay, clearly you are a person to look up to.
Yes. So something that I really want to dig into, and this is mostly selfish, but what you do, it sounds like, is you're breaking through walls, right?
I
There's
love that.
there's the wall and you're over here and you want to get over here. And so I want to learn more about your strategy to break down those walls and to get into the rooms, but like whether that be on a magazine that's really tough to get on or being in a room in front of on an advertising board in front of a lot of people that's really tough to get. How do you break down those walls? Because it's really hard for me to articulate it because a lot of times what happens with me is I network a lot and I meet people. And then for me to get something that may be impossible for someone else can just be a text message because I'm friends with the guy that owns the company that does that. Right. Or something like that. So I want to hear in your world, how do you break down those walls? How do you get people through the barrier to get onto the big magazine or the podcast that they want to get on?
Mm. I love that you opened with what your approach is, which is be like a text message of I know someone that is pointing out a mutual person that you guys both know. When I do pitch clients, if there are any mutuals, we will bring that up. So if there's, we pitched someone onto a podcast and she knows a few guests. So she mentioned that these are friends and they recommended the podcast. That's one way, but that's definitely not the most common way because that doesn't happen most of the time. There is no mutual connection. So I'd say what my strategy is that I think takes someone a little bit off guard is opening up the pitch with something very specific and very personalized. So that could be that you're pitching. So let's say we're pitching to be on Adam Grant's podcast. I would open up and be like, hi, Adam. And then I would say, I love your Instagram post about workplace anxiety, particularly what you said about showing up and blah, blah, blah. And I would mention something very specific that he said and like maybe even quote himself back to him. Because I think that what happens when people are getting pitched is that 9 out of 10 times not even 9, I'd say 99% of the time, you are either getting nothing personalized. So it looks like it's gone out to whoever, it's been written by an AI machine, or it's something very generic, like, I love your podcast, blah, blah. Like, I love the art of connecting. And there's nothing there that suggests to you, Hayden, that the person actually listens to your podcast and actually knows anything about your podcast. So that is the receiver being like, oh, this is not just a copied and pasted pitch. This was a pitch targeted specifically to me. And I can tell that because they've said something that there is no way they would have been able to say if it wasn't legit. And it's also not overly complimentary where it's, wow, you're so amazing, you're brilliant and stuff, because I think that is also a bit off-putting in many cases. It doesn't read as authentic, especially for a first point of contact. So yeah, so that's the strategy that is easy to implement. And then of course, like, the pitch should be good. It should have some story. It should have some value. It should be a good buyer with links so that if they're interested in finding out more, they will go and click into it. And they can easily do that. They don't have to go to extreme lengths to find out, like your website, or if you're pitching publications, you would want to link other articles you've written if you have them, because one of the things that the editor would want to assess is whether you can write an article. Even if you're linking Medium articles or your own blog, that's better than no link. And then a call to action, which is just, you want to connect, or are you interested in this pitch, or is this a fit for your publication?
So if someone is starting to do this, how do you scale that? Because if every person you pitch, you're digging a level deeper, right? You're taking time to listen to an episode, or you're taking time to go and scroll through a social media post and see what actually resonates with you. How do you take that and scale it up to where you're doing it a lot?
There's probably multiple strategies. And for some people, they would go with the AI approach, which I think is where you use a bot and you buy a lot of emails. So you're not researching the emails, and then you're sending thousands of pitches. I've never done that, so I can't speak on the ROI. I can't tell you if that is more beneficial than my approach, which is highly targeted and highly personalized. So in terms of scaling, we have a template. We have ways of personalizing it in a way that doesn't take too long, but it is labor intensive. I have a team of people that work for me, and we charge a premium price for our clients to work with us because we're only pitching podcasts that are a really good fit, and it's being done in a very personalized way. It works for us. It gets them in front of people that they haven't been able to get in front of with other strategies, but it's not something where we could send thousands of pitches, and we don't need to. We send 10 pitches a week for a client, 40 pitches a month, and they're usually getting 4 to 8 appearances. That's not a number that they want to increase. It's not a number that they can handle increasing. Yeah, but it requires labor. That's my model.
That's a perfect example of kind of what I was getting at. So I preach all the time of I just had a friend the other day. He runs a mortgage broker company, and he was talking about how he needs to go and scrape the internet and get this list of emails of Atlanta realtors and have AI type up a thing. And I literally just asked him a question. I was like, how do you feel when you receive an email that has been written by AI?
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't think of a time where I've gotten and read an email where it's just written with AI. And I was like, exactly. Like, whenever you just don't even look at it. I don't even look at emails anymore that have been written by AI, because there's something about it where you can read it and you can tell.
You can detect the AI, but it's written by a robot.
Yeah, and you can see that's not a word that a regular human would use. When they start using these big, crazy, fancy words, I'm like, this is written by AI. And it's a tool, I think, that can be useful for very basic things. But it's my opinion, and I would love for you to chime in on this, as we get further into this AI world of everything is AI, I think it's going to become more and more important and profitable to be a person and take the time to go and write something personal when everyone else is just clicking one button and blasting out to millions of people.
Yeah, I love that take. And just like you, I feel like I can detect it. Also, LinkedIn I've had a couple of AI comment and I can tell that the person is just commenting on so many people, and it's always the same formula. It's like summary of what you said, question, and I can tell, but I'm also hesitant to blast strategies that I haven't been behind the scenes on. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the AI strategy sucks and it doesn't work, because I've never run one. I don't know what their ROI is. Like, they don't use labor. So perhaps obviously I can say with certainty their acceptance rate is far lower than mine and like my team. Their cost per email is much lower. So I don't know, maybe if they're getting one acceptance out of every 2,000, that's profitable. And because no labor went into that. But I do agree with you that as the world becomes more saturated with AI content, being human is going to be increasingly profitable, because I think that what we're going to see and what we're already seeing is that AI strategies are becoming less and less effective. I'm sure that when the first AI pitching, like whatever it's called, website app started, people saw much better result then than they do now, because the consumer is becoming more hypersensitive and detective of what is written by a human and what is not written by a human.
Yeah, I know, like I've run some AI stuff and it is not very effective. It's a shotgun effect of, right, you're going to shoot out all these little beads and maybe one will hit the right place. And I know, like, when I open something written by AI, I'm immediately annoyed, because what that tells me about the person that's sending it is that they don't care enough about me to take the time to write something themselves. That's like a subliminal, subconscious thing that I think when I read something written by AI.
And I think probably something that would be a concern of many of my clients is that reputationally, they wouldn't want an AI strategy, because they just wouldn't want their podcasts to be reaching, especially if you're a fairly influential entrepreneur. People know your name. A lot of people know your name. So they wouldn't want the reputational impact of an AI written email reaching people who know them and then being like, why on earth are you pitching me like in this robotic tone when written by an AI when we're friends? We met at this networking event. We co-hosted this workshop together. I think that they wouldn't want the reputational impact of that as well.
I love your approach. You really lean into the art of connecting. Like, it's more important for you to create that connection with people than mass, which is really something that I love. I want to learn a little bit about how you go about acquiring customers, like on the other side, not just doing the work for your customers, but as an entrepreneur, and a lot of people that listen to this podcast are entrepreneurs. We're always thinking about, how can I acquire new clients through a connected approach? So does it work the same way for you? Are you taking what your potential client has said? What does your kind of sales pitch look like when you're trying to acquire a client?
Yeah. I'd say right now, most of it comes through referrals. And I think that that speaks to being in a place where the business is healthy enough to be able to rely on that. And a new strategy I've done for referrals is I offer my clients and my referral partners, I have people in my network who run very complementary businesses. I offer them a 10% referral fee for the duration of the contract. And that has increased the referral rate, especially from people who haven't personally worked with me. I was getting referrals from people who had worked with me before, but now I'm getting referrals from people that haven't worked with me but know about me. And I think that speaks to the relationship and that we've established the relationship. And I then invited them to be a part of that network. But when I was starting out, I got clients through cold pitching. And there's one client who we've been working together since early 2021. And I cold pitched her. And she often says, like, I was the only cold pitch that she responded to that was offering services. And I think, that I feel like that's testament of, if you do the pitching right in a very human way, it can work.
What did that cold pitch look like?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It's a very long time. And I know that my cold pitches now, I did some cold pitches beginning of last year. I know that they're better than that one was. But I opened up with her name, hi, and then I mentioned some specific things about her business. And my gosh, do you know what? I might just try to look for it. I don't want to tell you what it was like, and I'm completely lying to you. I'm going to take a quick look at my email.
That'd be great. While you're pulling that up, I also will talk about, I love your referral program. And that's something that I have started building a whole business around. So I built out a whole CRM. I have 30 referral partners so far.
That's
And I
amazing. I
keep
love the
track.
idea of a CRM.
Yeah, I keep track of exactly who my referral partner is. I ask them what their ideal client is. So I have that in my CRM. And then I ask them what their referral program is. And I keep track of that. It's like my connections tracker. Whenever I connect, so if I connected my friend John to you, Alice, it would say I would start a new deal, which is like in the CRM line. And then to say John connected to Alice. And then I keep track of the status of if they've replied, if they've decided to work with you, or if it's not a good fit. And then I put a deal value attached to that of like, how much is that connection worth, like dollar amount wise?
Like my brain is just going off now because I get asked all the time and I had the referral program for me, for my business, but
Right.
it's such a great way of creating passive income through referrals because I get asked all the time, do you know someone that can do X thing? And I just tell them someone that comes to mind.
For
But
free.
creating a tracking system like that is just such a smart way of referring and making money off of its referral.
Yeah. When I've got this up and going the way I want it to be, my goal is to send 2 or 3 texts a day, make $500 to $1,000 per text message just off referrals. And so
Yeah.
like when I have it cranking at that level, I'll write a book and make content and all that kind of stuff about it and like start plugging the system of really anyone that is a connected like business owner entrepreneur is going to always be asked for referrals. And so before I just give a referral away, I just ask them, hey, do you have a referral program by any chance? And
Yeah.
people are always willing to take care of you. You just have to ask. And
It's just so brilliant.
yeah,
Like thinking of other
there you
side.
go. I made that. Maybe I can make you an extra few $1,000s a month or something like that. Cause it's why anyone can plug this in, especially people that I talk to who are connectors. They're like, I never thought about even asking. I
Yeah.
never thought about capitalizing off of what I was doing for everyone for free. When at
Yeah.
the end of the day, people are happy to give you money too if you get them a referral.
Yeah. Like from the end of where I give referral money, I think it makes so much business sense to me because you take someone who worked with me for 2 months and she referred someone to me. She probably will forget about me like a year or 2 years down the line when someone's asking her for a referral. But if she's been getting consistent money every month for that client working with me, when that happens again and someone says, hey, I'm looking for this thing, she's going to be like, oh my gosh, like this person who's been paying me like $200 every month for the past 2 years, of course I'm going to refer them. Like,
And then you can double it. And then you can
yeah,
continue making more income. Yeah. I love the approach and it's cool too, because it can become passive income, right? Like
yeah,
it doesn't even have to just be like today's money. There's some referral partners I have. If I refer a lending partner out, every loan that that person does from now until as long as he's lending, I get paid on. So the other day I was just sitting and I got an overnight check and it was $500 and I was like, whoa, I forgot I did that. And it's
yeah.
a cool feeling.
This is actually passive income. Business people always talk about passive income, and often it's not because you're selling the product that is supposed to be passive all the time. But this is passive. So
Yeah.
I would love if you ever sold at CRM. I'd love to take a look.
Yeah, I can show it to you later on for sure. Were you able to find that pitch?
Yeah, I
All
did.
right, let's hear it.
Okay, I'm going to read it to you. And I just want to say, caveat, that this was 3 years ago and I am much better now.
What 3 years ago wasn't good is probably a very great starting point for a lot of people because we all have to figure out what our jam is and how I do it. So I think this is really cool to get to see 3 years ago, Alice, and then today, Alice.
Awesome. So I said, hi, name. And then I gave her a personalized intro, which I'll just for anonymously not read out. And then I said, my name is Alice. I'm a PR strategist and journalist who works with writers, authors, and public speakers. I have been published in Vice, Refinery 29, Hello Giggles, and elsewhere. As a PR strategist, I have worked with TEDx speakers like Insert Name, Dr. Lynette Charity, as well as award-winning coaches like Kelly Thompson and Dr. Erin Whiteman. Can I just say that I love your podcast? Since you 100% embody my ideal client, I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring and find out whether you are looking for a pitching partner. While you already have an impressive portfolio, I imagine your schedule is packed. Most of my PR has helped authors and coaches move their ideas from personal podcasts and blogs into publications like the Huffington Post, The Good, Working Mother, and more. My pitches have also helped clients land guest appearances on top-rated podcasts like Mimosas with Moms and The Productive Woman. Here is a testimonial from one of my existing clients. Then I just put in a testimonial. The client said within 2 months of working with me, she was able to uncover unique story angles that I'd been overlooking. And I had 3 paid pitches accepted in just a few weeks and expect many more working with her. Alice works fast, never lets me overlook an opportunity, and has been instrumental in helping me create a compelling message to grow my business. My schedule for Q3 is opening up, and I have space to take on 2 more clients. Are you interested in sharing your stories with the wider audience? Let me know and we can book a free 30-minute discovery call. Thank you. I look forward to hearing from you.
I love it. So it's introduction, personality, like number 2 is something personal, like something that it's like a hook, right? Like it's you read that and it's not just, you're not rolling right into what you do. You're like throwing back out what the other person does and getting their attention. And then you're also like giving the testimonial, which is super important as well. Like people knowing like, all right, this person has someone else that's happy with what they do. And then you're getting into your pitch. And I love that layout. That was great.
Thank you. Yeah. When I look back at it, I'm like, I can't believe this worked. I think I would have been even more personalized now. And I think I would have probably outlined the transformation a little bit more strongly. But I think that some of the things that I did right was, like you said, introducing myself, building that out before going into the pitch, but also creating a bit of, and adding a social proof, but also creating a bit of scarcity. So it wasn't just like, this is something that forever open. I said there were only 2 more spots. And then leading up to CTA with a call, because that's the goal with any sales pitches. You want to get the person on a call and do the hard selling over video.
Yeah, with the face-to-face. Yeah, that's great. I think that's obviously you've improved your craft just like anyone else would, but that's one heck of a starting point. If someone is trying to sell something and what they're doing right now is just saying like, hey, do you want to buy my steam mop? And like, if that's what they're doing right now, you can literally take that and just apply it and say like, all right, so start out with an introduction. Hey, Alice, I saw on your Facebook that you're a busy mom and your kids are adorable. And then you go into, I have this really cool steam mop and it's a great mop and it'll help you clean your house twice as fast as you do now. It's a robotic steam mop. And then if you'd be more interested in getting this robotic steam mop, let me know here and I'll come to your house. Like, I don't know. It's like, instead of just being that one little tiny piece of thing of, I have this steam mop. You're going into, I care about you. I care about your family and I want to meet you in person. Here's the place to do it.
I think disarming them in the beginning and I think cold pitches get a really bad rep because they're cold and it feels quite presumptuous to sell to someone with first point of contact. And I think that our goal as pitchers is to make it as warm as possible. And that's where I'd say it. Improve it now is I would be a bit more warm and I would speak to more specifics about the work that the person is doing. Because I think establishing that familiarity, even though you guys don't know each other, and shared values is really important if you want to disarm the person and not put their armor for being like, oh my God, I'm getting sold to again for the 10th time today.
Yeah, I had a girl cold DM me on LinkedIn one time. And it was literally just like a raw sales pitch. There was no personality, no nothing. Like, and I was like, this isn't very personal. And I think she ended up blocking me. But I texted her back. I told her, I was like, this doesn't feel very personal. And I was like, how are you getting sales off of this when you're literally just like blasting out like random cold DMs? And she like went off on me. It was really funny because I very clearly pushed a button there for her. I want to find it if I can now because it was really funny.
I love that. It's making me think. I got one which I just opened up now where someone said, hi there, I'm sorry for being so honest. Your podcast has something very bad and very good, Alice. The bad thing is that your podcast has a lot of potential, but you're not fully exploiting it. And then it goes blah, 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 if you work with us. So I just replied, I don't have a podcast, which I don't. And Paul Talbot was really funny.
That is too funny. Man, I can't find it, but I think she blocked me, so I probably won't ever be able to find it. But
No.
like, here's one. Let's see. This is a sponsored message, but hey, Hayden, it looks like you might be expanding your remote team and might need some help. Here's the one guide you need to onboard your remote team effectively. Don't worry, it's free. Download guide. No, I'm not. Like, it's literally, you were talking about how assumptive a lot of this marketing
Mm,
is. It's a total assumption. You're literally just, looks like you're expanding your remote team. How do you know that?
yeah.
What do you mean it looks
Yeah.
like that? And you're trying to get someone to download the guide. And I'm like, I know what's going to happen when I click this download guide button. You're going to blow my phone up and you're going to ask me to put my contact info in there and you're never going to leave me alone. And so I think the way you did it was getting it into a call. There's not as much of I'm not as
Mm,
hesitant to sign up for a Calendly link to get on a call with someone as I am
mm,
to put my contact info for a free guide, because I know
yeah.
if I put it into that like personalized link of a call, we're just going to have a call and a conversation, and ideally a 15-minute call, because it's an easy, like, all right, I'm just going to pick
Yeah.
up the phone and have a quick, easy conversation. Whereas, and your conversion isn't going to be as high with that but then you look at the download guide button, because I've done some of this stuff before, and those leads are almost never work. Like the
Yeah.
free guide, your conversion is so low on that because people just want to see the content for free. And then you're calling them and they're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah. What you said about 15 minutes is actually something I would change now, because you're totally right. Like, the lower the first ask, the better. And often that 15-minute call turns into a 30-minute call, because people often don't put like 15-minute blocks on their calendar. Like, they're not going to start a new meeting at the quarter past or quarter to, but it's a much lower ask. And the lower the ask, the more likely the person is to say yes. And 15 minutes doesn't feel like it's going to rot my calendar. So that was just really great points for putting as a highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always like to put myself in the shoes of who I'm trying to sell to. We have a little bit more time, but I want to ask your opinion on this. And I tell people this all the time. What I do, I never sell, but
Mhm.
I also am always selling. So
Yeah, I love that.
when I go to meet somebody, I don't ever think about what am I going to extract out of this person or what can I sell to this person. When I meet someone at a networking event, I say, hi, my name's Hayden. How are you doing today? Or I like your shoes, or I like your shirt. I like your tie. I like your hair, whatever it may be. I always try to compliment that person in the beginning. That's a great way to get a conversation started. And so, hi, I'm Hayden. I love your shoes. Those are awesome. And oh my gosh, thank you. I got them at Gucci, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. And then we roll into they'll ask me, what do you do? I'll say, I'm a professional connector. I help people get what they want by introducing them to people who I know. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. And then I'll just ask, what do you need right now? And then
Love that.
I'm never asking them, I'm never trying to sell them on anything that I do, because I bring so much value to the table. And it's all about a mindset of, am I bringing value to the table? Do I have more than just a product to sell? Do I have more than just any of my 30 referral partners' products to sell? I do, because not only do I have referral partners, but I have connections in all kinds of different places. And when I hear people's problems, and sometimes their problems are like, I'm starting a nonprofit and it does something that Hayden personally really likes. And they also really like it. And they're solving a problem that I want to help get solved. And so like, then I pile in and try to help them by, okay, I'm going to connect you to this person and this person to make your life easier to get this started. And I don't have to make money on that. It doesn't matter, because like at the end of the day, I make plenty of money by being able to be helpful to other people. And that's the analogy that I take. And I think it can be applied for any business. It's much more welcome, and you get a lot more referral business by doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with everything you just said. And I think as being in business is about getting clients. And I think that like a sustainable business model is relationships based. And one of the best ways to build lasting relationships is not to look at them as transactional, to look at it as, how can I provide value to this person? And value can look very different. Value can be, you're a funny person and they love talking to you because the conversational chemistry is great. Value can be that you are giving them great advice. Value could be that you're a great networker, and going to a networking event always means that they're connecting with a lot of smart, interesting people who benefit them. So I think looking at ourselves as being value bringers in whatever capacity is one of the best things we can do to market ourselves ultimately, and not to look at every interaction, or really to look at interactions as transactional, because that's often easy to detect and very off-putting.
I'm writing down, how do I be a value bringer? That's a great
Love
term.
that.
So if you just ask yourself that with every interaction you go into, how do I be a value bringer? That's awesome, because, and even if it's just a cold email, how do I be a value bringer instead of a
Yeah.
value taker? And like,
Yeah.
we talk about it all the time in the mastermind group that I'm in. It's like the guy that runs it gets pitched stuff all day, every day, because runs a large podcast. And so he has all these people like, oh, I want to be on your podcast. And it's like, he always like, he'll send screenshots of the DMs like of people that send him.
Yeah.
And he always clowns on the people who are like basically just saying, I want to be on your podcast because I'm important.
Yeah.
And he's like, nope, you can't be on it. I don't care who you are. And it's like, if someone goes, hey, I'd love to be on your podcast. I listened to your episode and on this with my buddy this, and then I run a small real estate business, and it's like, we do $400 million a year in revenue. It's like, yeah, you run a small one. And then that's how he gets his guests on, people who are approaching him with humility.
I work as a content producer for one of my clients' podcasts. And so I get the pitches, and the pitches are buyers of people. It's literally, my client's name is Jessica, she's an author, she does this, blah, blah, blah. And I don't read them. And I think that, as you said, how to be a value bringer, one of the best things to do, you personalize it, but also you should have some story, and you should talk about what value you're going to be providing on that podcast. The pitch I sent you, I spoke about the topics we could talk about that I would hope bring value to the audience. And I think that that is something that should be forefront of mind. The buyer in my style pitching comes right at the bottom. At this point, they've seen that it's personalized, that there's an interesting story. There are interesting topics that this person is going to deal with. Right at the bottom is the bio of who this person is and their links, because we want to establish all of those first baselines before being like, have me on your show because I'm so amazing and smart and interesting.
Yeah, if you start with that, it's an instant turnoff. If anyone's listening to this and wants to get on podcasts, start with something that compliment someone. I think the compliment is the best single way that I could ever give somebody to get what you want. Start with a compliment, even if you don't like anything the person's wearing. I love that shirt. Or find something that you like about the person that's in front of you if you're at a networking event, about the podcast you're trying to be on, about the product you're trying to buy, because it's hard to get. Find something to compliment someone on, because that is the instant barrier breaker. And it personalizes things immediately, takes a conversation off of business, which is what you want to do in the beginning, because if you just start with business, it feels like a transaction, and it shouldn't be a transaction. It should be a relationship.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd add to it that the more specific the compliment is, the better. So a very generic compliment, like, wow, you're so smart, like, it's less believable. But
oh, thank you. I've never met you and you're so smart.
But if you're like, hey, I love the fact that you're wearing the latest earphones, I have a pair of those at home as well. Don't you think that this feature is great? It's more believable. First point of contact, you're establishing that you guys have something in common. You both appreciate good tech. You don't have a lot to base someone off on the first point of contact. So you don't want your compliment to be disbelievable. Like,
exactly. Yeah, 100%. And even this would be like a comment for virtual sales, if someone's selling. So like, you can't see it right now. I only do audio only on my podcast because it takes forever to edit video. But like behind you, you have it looks like a painting. And so if I'm trying to if we're trying to break in the conversation, I could be like, oh, what's that painting behind you? Or are those vases on your shelf behind you? You can just you can just notice little things and ask questions about those. And it's an immediate icebreaker, because I'm sure there's something about that painting that I could dig into and ask about, even if it's like, oh, I just got it at Goodwill. Oh my gosh. I used to go to Goodwill with my mom. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think notice the details. It goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming up on our time here. So I want to ask you the last question that I have. And you already told me that you have you have something ready to go for this one. So I'm excited. But the question I have is there a person or a group of people that you can think of that getting connected to, getting plugged into, change the landscape of your life or business?
Yes, I love this question because I look at it as my like swan event, which is like something happened that completely changed the trajectory of your life. And I'm going to give two people. One is my mentor in university, and she is someone who dropped out of university and started a freelance writing business. I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to make money from writing, and I had no idea how to do this because I hadn't seen people manage to do this. Most writers I knew were struggling or had like a husband supporting them, or it was a side hustle. And she dropped out of university and was making money. And I saw her posting about it, like all the articles she was doing and renting her first apartment on her money. And I was just like, wow, like you can do that. And she put up a Facebook post saying she's going to host some writing workshops. And I immediately commented and said, I want to be there. And she was doing this for free just to teach people like in her network. And she completely changed the trajectory of my life because she, one, taught me how to pitch. That's when I started pitching myself, the magazine. Two, she introduced me to a network, a US-based network. All of my clients are American. I am South African. I only knew people that worked with South Africans, and the South African landscape is a lot more limited, in my opinion. And you earn a lot less money. Like there's just a lot less opportunity in the South African landscape. So the fact that she put me in this American network, added me to all these Facebook groups, opened up a lot of doors. It ended up with me doing a fellowship with an American publication, which is how I connected to my second mentor, who then, when I went full time with my business, she was the person that connected me to my first clients, connected me to my first gigs, taught me how to run a business, invoice, navigate sales calls, land clients, close deals, take a skill and turn it into a business. So it's those two people, the mentor in university and the mentor in my business, who I met through a fellowship that my first mentor connected me to, that completely changed the trajectory of my life. I think it could have gone in a very different direction if it weren't for them.
Mm. I think, and your story there highlights some of the stuff that I love to harp on when I'm on the podcast and love to dig into. You knew what direction you wanted to go, but you didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
So you used a relationship to get there. And I think that's amazing. And it's one of the most, when people ask me like, oh, I want to get into real estate, because that's like my main gig is real estate. And it's okay. Who do you know that does real estate already that you have a relationship with? And then they're like, oh, I know this person. I'm like, okay, I can teach you how to do it. I don't really have time to do that. You can follow,
Yeah.
you can come to my meetup and you can come to all the things that I do to help people get into real estate. But your best bet is going to be to talk to the people that you already have a relationship with and ask them how they got into it, and start talking to multiple people and seek out that mentorship. And so that's one of the most important ways, in my opinion, that you can, if you have this dream and you think, I want to do this, going and finding the people that have already done what you want to do is the simply easiest way to get in.
And the roadmap, it's a shortcut.
It's literally, it's a hack. And if you take all of I think to put a perfect bow on this episode, if you take all of the ways that we talked about how to get in front of people, how to pitch people, how to get your email to rise to the top and be read and interacted with, if you take all of that and you want to get into whatever it is, if you want to get into selling candy pops, like you can literally take that exact formula and you're pitching yourself at that point, and you're saying like, hey, I would love to get into selling candy pops. You sell candy pops. Could we go sit down and get coffee? I love that you're the best candy pop salesperson out there. It is universally applicable to anything that you want to do. Compliment somebody, ask them for help, and tell them what you want to do and what your vision is, and then set the meeting. And you would be amazed how many people would say yes to
Yeah.
a disarming meeting like that, to where I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to learn how you did what you did and see if I can do it myself.
Yeah. I like 1,000% stand behind this. I like vouch for the value of mentors because they changed my life. And I've actually given people advice on how to get mentors themselves because I used to talk a lot about what my mentors did. And they'd be like, I want a mentor. How do I find one? Something I would add to what you just said is that if the person is very successful, they may not respond to everyone who's asked for them for help and advice. A great way that I think works of getting them to say yes to you is opening up by asking them a very easy yes, no question. So something that people don't respond to is, how do I start freelancing? How do I start my candy pop business? How do I start this? Because very overwhelming. What must I now type my whole story of how I started and who I met and how I started pitching? But if you said like an educated question, which is like, hey, Hayden, I listened to your podcast episode about blah, blah, blah. I want to know when I'm networking, is it better to open up with a compliment or a like question, something like that? Now, all you have to do is like question or compliments, and you're probably going to like add a bit more. And now that door's been opened, you're more likely to reply to that person next time they message you because they're not just a random messaging you. So if they reply to your story and say, love this thing you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like a week later, hey, I'm in the area. If you ever want to grab a cup of coffee, I'd love to take you out for coffee and I'd hear about your business story. There is a lot more chance that you're going to say yes to that than if their first point of contact was, hey, Hayden, your business is so cool. I want to know how to do something like that. Do you want to grab a coffee? Just because you might be asked that quite a bit. But if there's a little bit more strategy behind that reaching out, I think like you up your chances of the person saying yes.
And also like just offering value and saying like, I would be willing to come and work for you for free. Even if like you can't even do that, like even if you could only work 2 hours a week, try to offer that value because they don't really care. Like they're not probably going to have you come work for them for free, but like just showing that you care and showing that it's a thought and something that you would be open and willing to do. And then, this is so good. I think this is going to bring a lot of value. But another thing that I got a piece of advice on from one of my mentors, Aaron, was if someone ever says, if you're ever in X area, if you're ever in Austin, or if you're ever in Dubai, wherever it may be, if you're ever in this area, let me know. That is someone inviting you to come out and see them. So that means you should book your trip. If you want to go and spend more time with that person, if you truly are getting a lot of value out of it and you see them as a potential mentor, whenever someone says, oh, if you're ever in Iowa, let me know. I'm like, all right, when should I come? You should see the face that people give me when I ask that question. And
Like,
granted,
what?
I'm a single 23-year-old, so it's a little bit easier, but anyone can do it. It's not real especially if you're in the US, but it may be harder. I can't just like hop on a plane next week and come to Dubai. Like that would be difficult. But I could be like, oh, I'm thinking about going to Dubai in a year. Let's catch up then and let's stay in touch. And so if you do that kind of stuff, if it's possible for you to do, it is one of the most easiest way to get poured into. If you go and visit someone where they are, especially if you go to travel to go and spend a day with that person, you instantly move up the food chain like 20x because you're showing that you are sacrificing your day, your time to go and learn from that person. And I don't care how big they are. Like I've got friends that run like $100+ million companies. Because I've done stuff like that, I can go and call them now and say, hey, I have this problem. Can you help me? And they're going to help me. Or if I want to learn more about what they do, I can be like, hey, I'm going to be in Austin in 2 weeks. Can I come and shadow you for a day? And they'll be like, yeah, of course. Whereas if you're trying to do that cold, it's going to be like, I don't know who you are. Heck no. No way.
What I'm taking from this is really about showing people that you're putting the time and effort into it. And doing that just makes you look worthy of their time and their eyes. That early mentor taught me how to pitch. She hosted these writing workshops, and a lot of people didn't turn up, or they didn't turn up to every single one. And I was the only person that was consistent, did the work, like brought snacks. I was like the most, and doing all of that demonstrated to her that I really was driving a lot of value from that. And she helped me a lot further down in my career. If I ever messaged her, we're friends today, she was always going to help me. And I think it because she knew that her time was valued around me, and really just showing people that you really value your time, their time, like takes us a long way.
I love that. Oh my gosh. All right. Speaking of valuing your time, we just hit an hour of recording. Oh, it's crazy because that's how it goes when you're in a podcast. Time flies by. But I want to thank you so much for coming on, Alice. And if people want to learn more about your business, learn more about you, where should they find you at?
They can find me at hustlingwriters.com. And if you go hustlingwriters.com, you can also find my free pitch templates, which you can download, and it's got a few pointers on how to pitch yourself. And then also on LinkedIn, it's just Alice Draper. But yeah, thank you so much, Hayden. This was really great. I really appreciate you having me here.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Art of Connecting podcast. One favor I do ask of you, if you've made it this far, which it's a little late to ask this, but if you got value out of this episode, just go and leave a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Helps the show grow, and it also helps people be able to find us. Also, if you got value out of it and there's someone that needs to hear everything that we said today, hit that share button and send it over to them. We'll be catching you guys on the next episode, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.